الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون صدق الله العظيم وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. This famous ayah that we read last night, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر. There's a few things that should be mentioned about it. Last night we had mentioned that any corruption or any calamity that comes to people, it has to have two things. One is that there is means of something, apparent means of something. For example, when a calamity befalls, it is apparently a means of somebody becoming disturbed, somebody losing their contentment of the heart. And this is the case with calamities generally, that they come and they take the peace and happiness of life away. But for a believer, when these calamities come, the divine will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take this contentment of the heart away is not there. So therefore, even when apparently there is calamity and suffering, somehow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly instills peace and contentment in the heart of a believer. While for a disbeliever, even when there is all means of comfort and luxury and security, the divine will of contentment in the heart is not there. So even when there is all shapes and forms of comfort and luxury, that contentment that they are looking for is not there. So therefore, this is what should be kept in mind. Also, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that this is so that people could get a taste of what they are doing, and لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that they could come back, therein is also an understanding. It is very easy to understand that when we are going through a hardship in life, is that really a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is that a mercy in the shape of a hardship? And the way to tell is that if in that hardship or in that tough time, if a person turns towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does not lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in fact turns to Allah even more, then this is really a mercy. And if because of that hardship a person loses hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, engages in their vain and mundane efforts even more, forgetting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and becoming perturbed and deeply disturbed, then that is a sign that this is indeed a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah protect us. Man kafara alayhi, we concluded here, man kafara fa alayhi kufruh wa man amila salihan fali anfusihim yamhadun. So whoever is doing disbelief, their disbelief is upon them. Wa man amila salihan fali anfusihim yamhadun. And by doing good deeds, whoever is doing good deeds, they are paving their way towards Jannah. لِيَجْزِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ, so that Allah may give reward to the people who brought faith and did good deeds, min fadli, from His grace, out of His grace. So everything, all reward, it does not mean that we did something, we have become deserving of it, or we have earned it, and now na'udhu billah, it is a responsibility or it is incumbent upon Allah that He has to give us something. No, everything is from the grace of Allah. Nothing that we do is worthy of Allah. إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْكَافِرِينَ, and that Allah has passed this degree that He does not love the unbelievers. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ يُرْسِلَ الرِّيَاحَ مُبَشِّرَاتٍ وَلِيُذِيقَكُم مِّن رَحْمَتِهِ وَلِتَجْرِيَ الْفُلْكُ بِأَمْرِهِ وَلِتَبْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And among His signs is that He sends winds giving good news of rain. So one is the rain itself that brings the earth alive, but before that, another blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the good feeling, the feeling of being alive that comes with the winds that tell us about the rain that is about to come. وَلِتَجْرِيَ الْفُلْكُ بِأَمْرِهِ, and also through wind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the sailboats move over water. وَلِتَبْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِهِ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And this is so that you could search from the grace of Allah and be grateful to Allah. Which means that through these things you could, through rain and through trade that takes place through travel that occurs on the sea, you could seek provision from Allah, the grace of Allah. وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, and be thankful to Allah for His mercy and for His blessing and giving. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ رُسُلًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِمْ فَجَاءُوهُم بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ فَانْتَقَمْنَا مِنَ الَّذِينَ أَجْرَمُوا وَكَانَ حَقًّا عَلَيْنَا نَصْرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. We had indeed sent before you messengers to their people, so they came to them with clear proofs. Then we took vengeance upon those who were guilty, and it was due on us to help the believers. So people can see in the past as well that those who listened to their Nabi of the time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them victory over those who did not listen. From those who did not listen and did not believe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah always protect us, took vengeance from them by punishing them in this world, and there will be punishment for them in the hereafter as well. And there is annihilation for them in this world, and then there is further punishment in the hereafter. Allahu alladhi yursilu riyaha fatuthiru sahaban fayabsutuhu fi as-sama'i kayfa yasha wa yaj'aluhu kisafan fatara al-wadqa yakhruju min khilalihi. Allah is the one who sends the winds. So they stir up a cloud, then He spreads it in the sky however He wills and makes it split into pieces. Then you see fatara al-wadqa yakhruju min khilalihi, then you see the rain coming out from its midst. So who is the one who does that? Who raises the water vapor, makes the clouds. Sometimes the clouds split apart, sometimes they become one big cloud, and sometimes they give off rain, sometimes they split apart and individual clouds give off rain. All of that is in the control of Allah. Who can do so except Allah? فَإِذَا أَصَابَ بِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ إِذَا هُمْ يَسْتَبْشِرُونَ. So once He makes it reach those whom He wills from His slaves, then they start rejoicing, which means that rain comes down upon the people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the water travel in such a way and then sends down rain, and people start rejoicing. وَإِنْ كَانُوا مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يُنَزَّلَ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ لَمُبْلِسِينَ. And their situation is such a flip of what they were before, which is that they were absolutely hopeless before it was sent down to them. So if it's an area where there has been no rain for a very long time, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down rain, we live in an area where there's a lot of rain. But as those people, or if you in your past life have had the experience of where the rain is far and few in between, then imagine those moments when the wind, the cool breeze that starts to blow before the rain, and the actual happiness of the rain, where people have lost hope and their farming and their crops are damaged because of such less rain, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends rain. Ask them how their hearts turn in hope, how there is a flip of the situation of the heart. فانظر إلى آثار رحمة الله كيف يحيي الأرض بعد موتها إن ذلك لمحيي الموتى وهو على كل شيء قدير. Here in this ayah, Allah is telling us that just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down the wind and makes the dead earth not only alive itself, but also life comes out of it, similarly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give life to whoever who is once dead. So there should be no problems or difficulty in believing that. The translation of this ayah is, so look to the effects of Allah's mercy, how He gives life to the earth after its death. Surely that Allah is the one who will give life to the dead, and He has the power to do everything. وَلَئِنْ أَرْسَلْنَا رِيحًا فَرَأَوْهُ مُصْفَرًّا لَظَلُّوا مِنْ بَعْدِهِ يَكْفُرُونَ فَإِنَّكَ لَا تُسْمِعُ الْمَوْتَى وَلَا تُسْمِعُ الصُّمَّ الدُّعَاءَ إِذَا وَلَّوْا مُدْبِرِينَ وَمَا أَنْتَ بِهَادِ الْعُمْيِ عَنْ ضَلَالَتِهِمْ إِنْ تُسْمِعُ إِلَّا مَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِآيَاتِنَا فَهُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Allah is saying that should we send a harmful wind and they see it, their tillage, their crops turning yellow, then they will turn ungrateful, even after all the aforesaid bounties of Allah. So if on such people they become very happy with rain and their earth turns green, and then if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala follows it with a period of dryness, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends some dry winds that turn everything yellow, then they will lose hope in Allah again. Such is the way of the mushrikeen and the kuffar, as was mentioned last night as well, that they have a very weak connection with Allah. Whenever some hardship comes, they lose trust in Allah. Whenever some happiness comes, they become so happy that they forget about Allah. A believer should not be like that. فَإِنَّكَ لَا تُسْمِعُ الْمَوْتَى وَلَا تُسْمِعُ الصُّمَّ الدُّعَاءَ إِذَا وَلَّوْا مُدْبِرِينَ. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he knows and he sees that such clear signs have been presented to them and still they don't believe, then the Prophet ﷺ cannot make the dead to hear. It is as if they are dead. The Prophet ﷺ, no matter how hard he tries, he cannot make them to hear. Nor can you make the deaf to hear the call when they turn their backs in retreat. When a deaf person has turned away, then no matter how much you call them, they cannot hear, they cannot look. So when they have turned away, so there is no chance for them to, there is no hope that they will turn to deen or the right way. وَمَا أَنْتَ بِهَادِي الْعُمْيِ عَنْ ضَلَالَتِهِمْ. Nor are you able to show the right path to the blind against their straying. When the blind person itself does not want to go on the right path, then you cannot force them to go on the right path. إِن تُسْمِعُ إِلَّا مَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِآيَاتِنَا فَهُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. You can make none to listen except those who believe in our signs, hence they submit. So the believers are the ones who listen to the Nabi and submit. The Prophet ﷺ's job is only to make them hear. If they listen, it's their choice. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين آمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.